All right, welcome to this week's Nitty Gritty. We are here with Courtney Rich, and she brought fantastic treats that we are going to try probably while we talk, because I'm not going to be able to look at those without eating them.
We need to tell the audience her real name. This is 2019. You're not known by your real name anymore.
That's true.
This is Cake by Courtney.
Cake by Courtney.
Cake by Courtney Rich is here.
Cake by Courtney Rich. That's funny. You guys, I was listening to your interview with my friend Anna.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I know you're most excited about her interview. I caught that at the very beginning, by the way. I was hoping you would maybe say that about mine, but it's fine. Maybe afterwards you'll be like, that was our favorite.
Listen,
now that we've had the cake. And
I don't want to sound fatter than I already look. So if I say I'm most excited about you being here, it's not looking good for me.
And don't worry, we haven't done the intro yet. We'll record the intro after where we'll put that in.
So maybe that will be revised. But at Anna's house, anytime she says Courtney, the kids say cake by. And I just, I love
what
it.
the kids know you by?
Yeah, that's what they know me by.
Social media gurus' children right there.
Right there.
Totally makes sense. Got to go by the tagline.
How do you know Anna? Before we kind of jump into your story.
We met in an airport in Phoenix, actually. We were both out there for work.
Wow.
And I had followed all her accounts, her 1,000, I think she's at right now. And I think I introduced myself quickly, and then we met again at another event and have just become good friends. And
she's amazing.
She's awesome. So.
She lectured me the other night. I went and helped out with Abby Ayer's cookbook launch thing, and she was there, and she's like, "Where's your social? Why aren't you doing your stories?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And then as I'm leaving the party, long story short, she's like, "Okay, I'll be watching."
Yeah, waiting for it.
Oh my gosh! So that's why when he started doing the video with you, I'm just like, "Eat your heart out, Anna."
Yeah.
Look, we're doing it. We're doing it. So it's cool that she cares, right?
Yeah,
it's awesome.
She does. She's awesome.
So Courtney, where did cakes come from? I mean, has it always been something in your family?
No. Baking, yeah, like being in the kitchen and hanging out with my family, it's good memories. We did a lot of that, and I always loved it. I mean, the kitchen is just some of my favorite memories with my family. It's changed a lot since my parents' divorce, but it's still kind of the gathering place for everyone. No, I mean, I grew up playing sports and just, whatever. There was never this dream of I'm going to be like a cake guru one day.
Right.
I did broadcast journalism at BYU a long time ago, and I got into media consulting right away. So I worked at a station for a second, got into consulting. So I got into the research side of media.
Like
and I've
focus
done
groups?
Focus groups. Yeah. I went around the country until this year, 2019, moderating focus groups.
Really?
For television shows. Yeah. And talent and websites and apps. And I was doing it full time for about 4 years until I had my son, Weston, who just turned 11. And then started freelancing after that. My company wanted to keep me on in some capacity. And so as I've moved around from from Utah, from BYU to Santa Monica to, we were in Switzerland for 4 months. I took maybe a little break there. And then we were in San Francisco and here, and I just kept doing it. I loved it. It was a new project every city we went to. And I got to travel the country, and it was crazy hours. I'd fly out sometimes on a red eye, so it was the last flight out so I could be with my son and my husband, and then had Avery 6 years ago. And then I'd get in a cab, go to a focus group facility, run a couple focus groups on a new show, hear about it, fly out that night or the next morning to the next city, and 4 cities in 4 days, 3 cities in 3 days, just run like crazy. But I'd only do a couple a month. And take on projects I wanted to. And it was fun. I loved it.
What was your choice of project?
I love doing the focus groups for new pilots. New television shows and talent testing.
Were you pretty good at being able to pick out which ones were going to get picked up?
Oh, yeah.
What pilots?
Yeah.
Really?
You can kind of tell after seeing so many, you need to have a great character build. You've got to have a great storyline, but characters most important. If you can get people to fall in love with your characters and their stories, then you've got them hooked. Even if you have because you can always make changes really to a storyline, right? But you've got to have those characters that they can fall in love with and root for, and then people that they hate. So there's so many. I did talk shows, worked on Jimmy Kimmel. We worked on a lot of ABC stuff, cable network stuff. And so it was different all the time, even though it was kind of the same thing that I would go and do.
What makes a moderator like good or bad?
Good question,
I've
right?
never seen one.
So
never participated
I started
in one.
with this company when I was 22. And by 23, I was doing my first focus group. And my boss was just like, I think you'd be good at this. And so they just threw me into it. Maybe some of the broadcast background from college. I like to talk. No, but you've got to be able to control a room. There's usually 10 to 12 people in the room. And you can't let Cameron talk about everything, right? Got to let Andrew have something to say. So there's moments where you're literally like cutting people off. Like, thank you so much, Cameron. That was really great. Andrew, I need to hear from you, right? Like, and being able to hear from everyone because you have clients in the back room. So I'd be out in Chicago. I've got executives from ABC behind me, and I just
Oprah's
had to
behind the mirrored glass.
It's
like, get it together, Courtney.
People would always wonder. They forget about the glass. It's like reality TV, right? They forget about the cameras really quick.
For sure.
And so you get people in the room like checking themselves out, like in the camera, like over behind my back in the mirror, just kind of looking around.
And
oh
Oprah's
man,
doing a blowfish on the other side of the glass, and they have no idea.
You're usually drinking in the back and having food and like trying to get through 6 hours worth of focus groups.
Oh my gosh, that would be
so there's
horrible.
always snacks back there. And they're taking notes, and then we'd be done and work up a report and tell them what we thought and give them suggestions if the show needed to change, or we just did. I worked on Yellowstone.
Oh,
so Kevin
I
Costner.
love
Yellowstone. I did. So
I love that show.
Yeah, so we did that one after season 1 for branding for season 2, and it was like came back for sure. Do not kill off Kevin Costner's character, right?
Oh,
and because he was getting sick. Spoiler alert in season 1, like you can't get rid of him.
It was just a cyst or something.
We're
good.
Those kind of things, we're good.
Yep.
It was funny. I came back from that project. The next week, I rolled down to American Fork, where like the Target is, and there's that outdoor store. What's the store?
Big Five.
No. The feed one, like.
Oh, IFA.
IFA.
Oh,
thank you. Clearly, I'm not from here. Okay, so and they had all the Yellowstone logos, the Y, for the ranch.
The brand,
And I was like, oh my gosh, they're filming right now. So I go around and there's all their trucks. And
it's
everything.
pretty much all here. Like Heber, they're in Heber nonstop.
We saw them at in Park City once.
Yep.
Kevin was with.
It's
I'm
all
on a first name basis, by the way. So Kevin was with like the whole crew. But I kind of wanted to like go up to the trailer and just say, hey, by the way, you're not killing Kevin, right? We just put in our findings this week. Like we need to keep him around. What's going on right now? So it was really
we
fun.
wanted to save some money and kill off Kevin Costner. It was like, he's the whole show. Don't do that.
It's his show.
Gosh, yeah.
Usually, how early are you doing those focus groups compared to like when stuff's coming out? Like, do you have to kind of keep those secrets for a while?
Sometimes it totally would depend. One year I was testing a show for ABC, and it was probably like 7 years ago. And it was premiering that week. So we were on the road the week that it was premiering. I'm in the middle of a focus group, and I get a note from the executive behind that said the show was just canceled.
Oh my gosh.
No.
So we were doing, it was like finish the focus group, but ABC just canceled the show. It did so bad. It was kind of another version of American Idol, but very poorly done. And there was some, Anyway, so it wasn't testing really well. There was some missed marks on that one, and we were trying to like, okay, what do we make sure we're doing? So there was pilot testing for that, but then they were checking on marketing and branding and that kind of thing. So we could be doing it in the middle of a season and just checking on things for season 2, marketing for season 1 in the middle of it, months or a year ahead. It kind of depends because TV can be that quick. Where
you like doing it, you can tell.
I loved it.
It's
It
fun
was
hearing
really
you talk
fun.
about
It was really fun. There were some good stories.
Like
I wish I would have kept more notes about the experiences and the people,
right?
Because it would have made a great book. Like there's
I'll bet.
I mean, all over the country, from St. Louis to Dallas to Phoenix to Denver to Jersey. A lot. We'd go outside of the suburbs of New York so clients could come visit. Chicago, Atlanta, North Carolina, anywhere. You've got to hit like several parts of the country to get it good.
And
good read.
To be in these groups, do you sign up to be a part of a focus group?
Yeah, it's an opt-in, so you have to contact a focus group facility, and then the focus group facility has you in their database. But then our clients, we would create a screener to make sure that you fit with the type of person that we're looking for. So they would start cold calling their whole database and ask them all the questions, and then if you fit our criteria, you'd be invited to the group. You get paid.
It's like jury duty.
So, but more fun. You get to watch TV. Like our groups are fun. Well, I bet the alcohol ones were fun too. I don't drink, but we'd have some. I'd be in a facility and there's other groups going on.
Right.
And like there's a tray wheeling of like alcohol and
like we really want to know how you feel
they're
today.
They're going to get loud and my group's going to like hate my group. And they're like, what's going on over there? I want to be in that room.
It's a show about a brewery.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's really funny.
And so you did that up until this year then?
Until this year. So last year at the end of 2018 is when I launched my e-commerce, my cake subscription boxes. And it just wasn't the full path. Like I love talking about it and I could talk about TV and media forever. But it was like that was just, I couldn't keep doing both.
Right.
And cake has become, I mean, it's been a passion of mine for a while. But being able to turn it into a business, I'm not even a bakery, like another type of business with food has been pretty cool. So it was time to like make a decision and close that
funny,
door.
we've had quite a few guests that have been at that either before or after or kind of right in the middle of just, I'm at the point where I've got to quit my, like the Johnson files.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
he's still working full time.
Yep.
But probably getting pretty close to having to leave. Or they have it so they're so busy that they're trying to get their husbands to quit their job to come work for them.
Yep.
And so it's so funny to kind of see how that goes. But so how long ago did the cake thing? I mean, you said you always baked in the kitchen with mom and dad or with mom.
Yeah, the first time I made a cake from scratch. I mean, because I made like box mix cakes, it was easy to follow those kind of instructions as a kid. My first cake from scratch was 10 years ago for Weston's first birthday. And we were living in Santa Monica at the time, so we were close to family, good friends. I was
so
throwing
gluten-free,
of course, right?
Okay.
Luckily, that didn't really hit until after we left Santa Monica. I was screwed. And I had the idea to make a cake from scratch because my in-laws are really good cooks. Okay. And I mean, I've told this story, but it's still funny to me because I mean, you guys are married, you know, like going into the new family, you're trying to like prove yourself a little bit.
I'm not.
Not
I'm done.
anymore?
I've
Done.
given up. I've tried for 15 years. It's not working.
So we'd be in the kitchen and Rick and Connie would be like, okay, Court, you're on chopping basil duty. I'm like, all right, chop my basil. And I'm like, what else can I do? No, you're good. You're good. That's it.
We don't trust you with anything else.
No, I was herb duty for 4 years.
Wow.
And I was like, I need to move up in the ranks here. So I literally like pulled Bon Appetit magazine from the shelves because that was a magazine Ryan's parents had in their kitchen all the time. And I thought, all right, I'll find a cake recipe from here. I'm going to make it from scratch. It's going to be killer. I'm going to have this Pinterest worthy party, which you guys, it was oh my gosh, it's such a fail. But I had a lot of fun doing the cake from scratch. And it was a peanut butter cake with chocolate frosting, which I just recreated my own recipe to kind of celebrate my 10 years doing that same one. And it looked like a poofy cake, like round and poofy. And I don't know how that happened, but it's fun to look back on and kind of laugh at. Just, you know, I had a
see
cake
a picture
topper
of my first rack of ribs.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna find it on
man.
Instagram while we're talking. Oh my gosh, Anna just texted. So funny we were talking about her. Okay.
Ears are burning.
Her ears are burning. But I'm going to find you the first cake because I just posted it with Weston's birthday cake. So here was the one. Sorry, guys, you can't see this, but it's a chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting. And that's the first one. So they can have their reaction of laughter. The cake topper's homemade. It's a giant W on craft paper. And the cake is, as someone described it once to me, poofy. So it was.
I can kind of see that.
I kind of poop. Wasn't even meant to be a basketball cake, but
it wasn't meant to be a basketball cake.
But it tasted really good, and sharing it with people was really fun, and seeing their reactions was really fun. So after that, I was like, I want to do this again. So I just started like playing around, and just whenever I had free time and I wasn't traveling, and Weston was napping, or I just had a second to be in the kitchen by myself, I would go there. It was very therapeutic and got me through some kind of rough patches in my life, and kind of became my sanctuary and my happy place, and you know, peaceful. You know, even though it was kind of chaotic sometimes, trying to figure out what to do, and I just started teaching myself the art of making cakes and the science behind it. And for 6 years, I just played around. And 4 years ago, I started my blog.
Wow. And so this was in California?
Yeah. So Southern California. And then we moved to the Bay Area for a little bit.
So I wonder, have you noticed the big difference between sea level?
Oh, yeah.
And not sea level humidity?
I was screwed when I got here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a ton to change.
There's a reason donuts taste so good in California.
No.
And not as good here.
That's true. I know. So I had to play around. But again, I had to teach myself. And I thought I really enjoy the science behind it and figuring it out. So some recipes will take me 8 tries. When I worked on a vegan cake, because inevitably someone's asking, right? I want to make a cake for my daughter who has an egg allergy and a dairy allergy. And I was like, you need to have good cake for them. Like, they deserve good cake too, right?
Sure.
So I was in the kitchen
Not
one
vegans,
time.
But the people with allergies.
With allergies, right? Everyone deserves good food.
Kim's going to kill me.
So I was making this egg-free, dairy-free cake and just trying. I read a bunch of research, tried to figure out like other recipes. And I was like, okay, I'm going to kind of put all my knowledge together and come up with my own recipe. And I'm like on my 7th version of it, and it wasn't coming out because I wanted it to taste just like one of my other cakes.
Right.
I wanted my husband and my son, who are like the biggest cake critics in my life, to taste it and not know a difference.
Right.
And Avery's sitting on the counter. She's 4, and it fails. And I'm just like, dang. And Avery just looks at me and goes, Mom, you should probably give up.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, at that point, I don't have a cheerleader for me, and I can't quit because what does that teach my daughter?
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
So how many more tries did it take?
Next try I got it. Took 8. Took 8.
No way.
Yep.
So how does
that's amazing.
I'm not in that world at all that you two play in. When you talk about like the science behind cooking, like how do you learn? Like when you say I tried all these different things, like what are you changing?
Amounts of baking powder, baking soda. Those are things that are going to help rise. If you're not doing an egg-filled cake, right? Eggs help give it moisture because of the fat, but also help it to rise and give it some level to it. So you got to find another version. Some people like applesauce, but no. Where's the fun in that, right?
I agree.
So we don't. And anyway, just playing around with egg substitutes that are on the market, like Bob's Red Mill has one. Just all these variations. The thing that I liked the most was actually just baking soda and vinegar. The chemical reaction that those two create in the oven with your cake can give it a really nice rise. And then you can get fat from your dairy-free butter. You can get it from coconut milk, coconut cream, and other places to get the moisture. And
so to get to the point that you just talked about of knowing all of this stuff, was it all just trial and error?
Totally.
Or was there a bunch of like study and research that you're doing?
Oh, yeah, both. Both. I stay up late, like looking at cake stuff. When I came to Utah and my cake was sinking, I was like, what is going on? I had to figure out why it was doing that. So I was just researching everything and
like researching, like just like comparing different recipes from people and seeing like what they put in,
or just even Googling like, why is my cake sinking?
Okay.
Right. Easy enough. And there was a bunch of different things. And what I found that helps me the most is reducing the sugar. You've got lots of sweet sugar in the frosting and the fillings. And if you take out a little bit of sugar, the next time it's going to rise really nicely. Sugar weighs it down in the high altitude.
Interesting.
So do you have like a tasting group outside of your family that
outside of myself?
Yeah. Like as you're doing all of these 8 variations of the
ask
cake.
where the sign up form was for that one because I'll be there.
My neighbors know where it is.
Yeah, I'm like no moderate. I don't want to be in the focus group. I want to be in the beta testing for cake.
Yeah.
I'll come to that party any day of the week.
My cake.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, I have a slice of everything. I try everything I make, and it kind of goes through me first. And if I approve and I'm happy with it, then I'll share it with other people and get their reactions. And like I said, my husband Ryan and my son Weston always used to want to be on Kids Baking Championship.
Right.
He went through a phase like, can I do that? Can I do that?
Yeah.
And now
my kids
are
on such a kick watching those shows right now.
Oh, they're so fun. And Weston will tell you he learned everything from Duff Goldman. Like nothing from me, but just from watching that show. He's like, oh, and Duff Goldman said this and this. And I'm like, what? I've been doing that forever. Like, come on, man. Give mom some credit. But nope.
No love.
No love.
Nope. Not at all. That's too bad.
But I think now he wants to be like a judge on Chopped or something because he'll be like, take a bite of everything separately, which I do too. So I get that he does that. But then he'll be like, like lick his lips, kind of let the flavor sit in his mouth for a minute. And he's like, all right, like, not bad, Mom, but I feel like the flavor wasn't as strong in the buttercream as you were probably trying to go for. And get like really specific with me. And so
does he know what he's talking about?
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does.
Wild.
Yeah, no, he's legit. So like he just tried my pistachio cranberry cake that I brought you and took a bite and he was like, oh, Mom, that's like actually good. And he's like, I didn't think it would because I don't like pistachios or cranberries. So
it is one of those things where if you hear it, you're like, really?
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of stuff like that is good.
Yeah.
It just will really surprise you.
Yeah.
So like when did you know that you were good at making cakes?
When you stopped cutting basil at the in-laws?
I know, when they started. Do you know what? When Rick made one of Ryan's dad, when he made one of my cake recipes, I was like, done. Mic drop.
Yeah, wow.
I'm good. I'm in. It took 10 years, but I'm in. No, it was probably about 4 years ago when people were like, you need to share your recipes. I'd started coming up with my own. And for a while, it was just like, I want to find the best chocolate cake recipe. So I'm going to try everyone's chocolate cake recipe. And then I was like, none of them are cutting it. I'm going to make my own. And how do I do that and just kind of figure it out?
So this was just a hobby to start.
Totally.
I mean, just you had fun doing it. You loved watching people enjoy it when they ate it.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went from there. Isn't that so funny? I mean, how many stories do we have that it's just like
almost every
you start doing
right?
something for fun. I mean, it's my story.
Yeah.
And it just takes over.
Well, and you're not going to turn it into a business, at least a successful one, if you don't love it. Like,
absolutely.
Passionately breathe, live it, right?
Right.
Like doing it.
Yeah. And people are like, well, don't you get sick of cake? And I was like, no, I don't. I don't get sick of cake. It's a new one. It's like the focus groups. I ended up doing it for 13 years because it was something different every time. Even though what I was doing was the same as far as the actions went, the content was different.
Right.
And that was exciting.
So when did you start to think this could actually be a business? Because you were in that world. I mean, you're probably used to getting people's opinions. I mean, did you ever like sneak your cake into the focus groups and be like, what do you guys think of this one?
No, I wish I could. But I would watch people eat my cake, and you can see it in their eyes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What they think of food, right? Like, Cameron, you get that. Yeah, I watch you eat my cake, and I want to see that reaction.
Right.
And so I started the blog about a little over 4 years ago. And a year into it, Orson Gigi up in Salt Lake asked me to come teach a class. And it was a demo class at their chocolate extravaganza, and it filled up. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It probably had like 10,000 followers at the time.
There's a chocolate extravaganza in Utah?
What?
What? Wow. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do tell.
No, it's a big weekend up there. And after that demo class, they said, let's try this as hands-on. We haven't done a hands-on cake class. And they were kind of reviving all their classes, and they're known for that. So I did the first one that following January, and they've just grown like crazy. We've got like a wait list of 3,000 people or something.
To do your classes?
To do my classes.
Wow.
People fly in from
so
out
cool.
of state.
That is awesome.
To have the experience. It's really fun. We've got about 16 people in the class. Everyone gets to stack and decorate their own class. I give them all my tips for baking it, for the frosting. We have a good time, and I can help them troubleshoot some of the stuff. And they could be beginners, never made a cake. We've had those people. We've had people that have been making cakes for decades, and they're hopefully learning a few new things when they come in and just having a good time. They leave with their own cake. We eat my cake. And so about a year into that, as I saw the group of people, customers, followers, like growing, I was like, all right, what else can I offer? And so I've always tried to offer more value than ever asking back from my followers. They're just so supportive and great. And we have a lot of fun together, and it's been an awesome community that I've been able to build. Mostly on Instagram, my blog, a little bit on Facebook, and all over YouTube. There's videos. And
when you started, did you start from scratch from your community, like with your blog and Instagram? I mean, did you have anything that you kind of drew on, or were you just? Well,
no. I mean, I was like, all right, I'll try this out. I did Blogspot. I was really hesitant even. I knew how saturated the market was. I was on Instagram. I was following all these food bloggers, and I saw the market, and I thought, oh, man, there's my favorite people out there already doing cakes. Like, how do I compete with that? And I did think, though, back to my focus groups, which has actually helped me a ton as far as just thinking about a lot of the work that I'm doing. But one of the things that hit me really quickly as I was thinking about this, and people were encouraging me to start like the blog and Instagram and social media around my cakes, was that anytime I'd go test a new show, you'd get in the room and you hear about, like, one of the main questions I'd always ask at the beginning is like, what else are you watching right now? Right. And they tell you some of their favorite shows, and they're like, but that's all I have time for. And people are really busy right now, right? We're busy people. Right. That's expected. And they're like, I don't really have time for new shows, but like, this is what I always try to make a priority to watch. Then they would watch the new show that we were presenting, and they'd give me their scores afterwards. We rate it 1 from 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And if it was high, if it was a good show, these people all of a sudden were like, I got more time. I can make
Isn't
time
it crazy
for this.
how often people make time
Priorities.
for stuff?
Right?
Yeah.
Right? They're like, all right, it might not be the first show I watch, but I'm putting it in my queue. Or I'll figure out how to make time. That was really good. And so I thought, okay, if I can create really good content, people are going to make room for it.
Yeah.
Even if they've got their favorite bloggers, even if they have their favorite websites. Like, hopefully I can just work my way in there if my content is good enough and I'm offering enough value to them. And so with that, I was like, all right, let's give this a try.
What a great analogy. I mean, that totally carries over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And look,
Because we will make room for stuff that we like. Or I bet that was pretty fun to see. I mean, you probably see it with cake too, but to take a show and I bet you've seen some cool, like we got just scores through the roof on this one, and now it's like 13 seasons deep or 10 seasons deep. I bet that was kind of fun
and
to
we've
watch.
had some really bad ones.
Have there any been that scored high and then failed on air?
No, usually if they don't do well, but they get picked up, it's because an executive wants it on.
It was like their nephew or something.
Yeah, there was one. Do you remember the Geico commercials with the cavemen?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
loved
Do you remember
those.
when they did
The
a
Caveman
TV show?
TV series.
Oh,
Yeah, I do
that's
remember
right.
that.
Guys, that didn't test well.
No.
It still
They
got
were great
picked up that
commercials, though.
season.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things like that, but then there's a lot of TV that I've been able to keep off the air for you. So you're welcome.
So what about cakes? Does it carry over? Have there been some that you thought were really good that maybe people didn't?
I won't post a recipe I don't think is good.
Right.
And hopefully I'm not coming up with anything that turns out to not taste great, right? Like my ideas sounds good to me, right?
Sure.
Sweet potatoes and marshmallows I like that. Let's turn that into a cake. Or I was in New York for the Today Show. Just going to put that out there. I'm not sure if you knew that, but
Humble brag.
just humble brag. And we ate at a restaurant called ABC Kitchen in kind of the Chelsea area. And they had an appetizer that was their homemade, like rustic bread. And they had homemade ricotta drizzled with olive oil and a strawberry basil compote that you could put on. And I don't want anything else. I was like, this is all I want right now. It's amazing. And so I thought, how could I put those flavors into a cake? I'm not using the bread, but we're talking olive oil, homemade ricotta, strawberry, and basil. Came home and made one of my favorite cakes to date now because of that.
Wow.
How
You
many?
can't escape basil, though, can you?
No, I can't.
Just
It's
follows
just
you
part of my
everywhere.
life. It just brings me back grounded to where I started. Thanks, Cameron.
Sorry.
Good reminder of where I started. It's cool. It's cool.
How many of your recipes don't make it? Like how? I guess how many times does it take for you to get it right, to where you're happy with the outcome?
It's been the most it's taken is 8 times, and there's
Okay.
been a couple of those. And then sometimes I can take a base of one of my other recipes and just change some flavoring and add some new components to it, and I know it's going to work. So there's less error now moving forward, but
Are you constantly looking for variation, or are you kind of do you ever get to a point where you're happy with what you have, or do you feel it's kind of the pressure to constantly be coming out with new flavors?
no, I always want to come out with the new flavors, and it's pressure from me because it's like, well, what else could I create? What other flavors could I put into a cake? I did ricotta beet cake after having a donut in New York at the Donut Project. And that was the first time I made actually homemade ricotta. And it changed my life. Changed my life.
Homemade
It's so
ricotta
good.
for
Homemade
cake.
ricotta. Yeah. In the
That
middle of the
work.
cake with a little bit of lemon, a little bit of powdered sugar, not too much because you want the tartness from the ricotta.
This is not going well for me right now. I'm so dang hungry.
Imagine going through her Instagram, just looking at.
Well, I
I've been
brought you
looking at it,
cake.
and there's
Start
cake
eating.
right here, and I'm like, I don't want to be the fat one, and
Just
Just
I'll
dive
eat
in
it.
I'll take the
first.
first bite right now.
Start
I
eating,
don't
guys.
see why we're not. We're letting it dry out in the stupid desert.
You
dry
should.
air.
Yeah, you need to eat. So that one's a sweet potato.
please,
But
something.
I used beet puree and made a filling. Everyone's feeling like, oh, that's going to taste like dirt. And I said, you have to try it. The flavors start to balance each other with the sweet and the bitter and the savory. And it just works.
that sweet potato's so good.
Could you say that in the mic, Andrew? I feel like that wasn't.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
not, I'm not ready to talk yet.
that sweet potato. So it's funny. We have a joke with my in-laws. The only thing I like about Thanksgiving is like the sweet potatoes.
Thank you, me too.
I'm like, everything else is overrated, and
Yeah.
so I'm super like.
You should have seen it. So we're brother-in-laws,
Okay.
and the amount of sweet potato stuff. So 2 different people brought recipes.
I'll try and
he
to impress
took
me.
pretty much a whole plate, like half and half of each one. We're like, dude,
I had to
that's
compare
all I
both
care
of
about.
them.
That's all I
I
care
need
about.
to give you my recipe. It's It's real good.
Oh, Jamie and Kim, you guys might be screwed if we get a recipe from Courtney.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
It's a good one. So that one they're eating
that's delicious.
is a sweet potato cake with toasted marshmallow filling, toasted candied pecans, and a pecan buttercream. So I made my own pecan butter and put it in my buttercream like you would like a peanut butter frosting or something.
You know, and I'm sure you get this. I mean, barbecue's the same way.
Yeah.
You don't realize the work that goes into a single cake. I mean, hearing you talk about homemade ricotta just as an ingredient to your cake.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Right. Well, but it's so worth it. And I think people, that's the best payoff, is that they realize all their hard work and their time paid off. It is so good. They've never tasted anything like that. And then they're hooked after that
experience.
First one. It's a total experience. And like so many times women and men will come up to me and just say, thank you for those recipes. Like, you've brought something to me more than just food. It's now a new hobby. It's a passion. It's turned into a business for myself. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Now I'm selling my cakes, or it's just my outlet. I've gone through horrible postpartum, and this was my thing to look forward to every day, was to just pick a cake and make it, right? Like, and then to share it with other people and realize, oh, I can do this. It's awesome.
That's really cool.
So,
and go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you enjoy watching people eat your cakes more, or do you enjoy hearing it when people have made them?
When they've made them, because that's my goal. That's why I don't have a bakery. I mean, I partner with Last Course for a little bit.
Yeah.
Cameron just took a bite of the pistachio cranberry cake that he
holy
was, I think,
crap,
a little
that's
bit
my favorite
nervous
one.
about.
Hold on, let's go.
No, you can't, Brett. Stay over there. No, come on. You can have some. That is
I didn't
incredible.
Thank you. It's a pistachio cake layer with a cranberry compote and a cranberry flavored buttercream as well.
See, I love tart.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about the lemon earlier.
Yeah.
That cranberry is awesome.
Who
would have ever thought? I mean,
Thank
I would have, based on the titles, I would have.
That doesn't seem like a very good combination.
Not that I was least excited. I was excited for all three, but I was more excited to try, the sweet potato and the peppermint.
Can't judge a book by its cover.
You can't. But that is phenomenal.
I love when people like realize I can do this, and because they look, I think, with life and everything we look at on social media, and we're like, oh, that's so unattainable. I can't do that. And I'm hopefully giving everyone the tools and the knowledge and the information between my blog, my IGTV, videos, recipes, classes. I just did an online course that people can buy, and they have access to that whenever they want. Like, giving them everything that they need to feel confident to go into the kitchen and just try it and do it. It may not look like mine right away, but my first cake was poofy. Like, it was
the basketball cake.
It was a basketball cake,
with
but not a
frosting on top.
not a basketball cake.
Right.
And people will send me pictures of their first cake, and they're amazing. They're amazing, and they're so proud, and their kids are like, Mom, now you can make every birthday cake, and they're asking for, it's just something cool, whether you're making a cake every week or every month or just a few times a year, to be able to say, I made my kids' birthday cakes their whole life growing up. And that was really special.
What stands out is most people will kind of have a scarcity mindset, right? So they have these recipes and these cakes, and they don't want to share them.
Yeah.
But you're getting so much joy in people saying, oh, I'm starting to sell these cakes now. It's like you're creating competition in a sense, but you love it.
Yeah.
You're not worried about it at all.
There's room for everyone.
You're giving them everything.
There's
You're
room
not
for
holding
everyone.
anything back.
Yeah, and I think there's no competition, because I'm Courtney, and you're Andrew, and you're Cameron.
Yep.
And we each bring something different to the table. So even if someone is using my recipes to start a home business, awesome. I hope they say, hey, this was a cake by Courtney recipe, but even not, good for you for doing something different, for trying something new, going outside of your comfort zone and starting a business. And no, I'm good. I'm in my lane.
Right.
I'm not getting out of my lane. You're in yours. We can be right next to each other.
And everyone's going to have their own spin, just like you do. Plus, it's cool. So I teach barbecue classes, and I think my favorite thing about it is being around people that were me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that excitement, that just, I couldn't think of anything else. I was obsessed.
Yeah.
But there's so much bad information that, since we've been in those shoes before, it's fun to be able to say, here's what if I had this information 10 years ago, it would have gone a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And I always say, people will say, but it's expensive to take your class. I'm like, I cost the same as 2 burnt briskets.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
you screw up 2 briskets, you just paid for my class.
There you go.
And you're going to screw up 2 briskets. That's just how it goes.
That's a great way to look at it.
And I'm sure it's the same with this.
Yeah.
The time that goes into it, especially a from-scratch cake. My gosh.
Tony Robbins talks about it. He says you can condense decades into days.
Yeah.
you know, and
Right.
that's what you do. You condense
Absolutely.
10 years of trial and error and all this stuff. It's like, you don't have to go through that. I'm just going to give it to you, and then you can build from there.
Right, and there's less frustration for them. So I just did a project with some students at the BYU MBA program. They asked if they could do a value analysis project on Cake by Courtney.
Oh, wow.
I was like, dude, am I legit now as a business? I felt like, okay. And so one of the things they came back to present me with was we were looking at two groups, my loyalist and then like the aspiring, I hope to do this someday. And those are kind of the crew that was me 10 years ago. I don't have a lot of money or time to put into it, but I want to start. I want to learn. And they're the ones with the frustration that it's like, okay, I need to focus on how do I take away some of that frustration and just bring you all the things you need to know so you can just have so much joy in this like I do. It's just you want to share the good stuff.
Right.
Get it out there.
So there's a couple things, well, not a couple, quite a few that you've been able to do because of cakes.
Yeah.
Like you dropped a hint earlier, the Today Show.
Today Show.
How did that happen?
That was awesome. They reached out to me. So last year when I was starting, let's go back a little bit. So 2 years ago, I came up with a product idea, and I reached out to a friend I knew that had started his own product design firm. And I said, okay, here's my idea. This is what I want to do. I can't talk about it because that actual idea hasn't come out yet.
Right.
And we've been still working on it because it's there's more technical things to it. But in the meantime, we came out with my own product line of scrapers, spatulas, apron, piping bags, cake lifter. But the first thing we ended up doing was this cake subscription box, kind of like HelloFresh, but with my cakes. Right. And so we launched that at the end of last year.
So
and
like ingredients, like just
all the dry ingredients.
Ready to go.
Yep. And we had
Cool.
a partner that put in like a cake topper every month or something. The recipe was there. It was really beautifully packaged. And it was fun that people were getting these pink boxes on their doorsteps every month with the new cake. And that was kind of a good gateway to get them into the kitchen. And they're like, all right, it's simplified even more. Everything's pre-measured. I don't have to go track down strawberry emulsion because I don't know where I get that, or I don't even need much of that. I just need it for this one recipe. So we started with that idea. And around that time, I hired a publicist because I'm like, all right, I've been able to grow, but I'm kind of limited. I need to keep going and to help with the e-commerce and the business side. So I started working with the publicist last fall. And so there's been things that have come through her and some that have come on their own. So the Today Show was one that she was able to help me book, and they brought me on, and I had a full segment during the Jenna and Hoda hour. And Jenna was there with Savannah Guthrie. And I mean, coming from the broadcast background too, and I mean, being a early 20s in broadcast, I was like, oh, I'm going to be Diane Sawyer and like, I'm going to do it. And then reality set in and I thought, oh, I'm not going to small markets. And then consulting came my way and it just felt right. And so I went down that path. So all these years later to step on to Studio 1A,
kind of went full circle.
Crazy.
oh, it was pretty epic. So that was a big moment. But when I got a call from Oprah magazine, one of their editors in March of this year.
That was the next one I wanted to talk
that
to
was
you
a
about.
that was a big one. So, and what comes full circle even more is the way I got that feature, how that came about. The initial conversation was, I interned at Extra TV back in college.
Really?
The executive producer there, lady named Lisa G, as we call her, was my producer, person I would talk to, kept in touch with. One of her good friends is the editor of Oprah magazine. And she tried my cake a couple years ago, but it was before I had anything that I could like ship and send. And to get in like her favorite things, it's got to be something you can send, right? They've got that. Right. So I was doing my cake boxes, and she's like, you need to look at Court. And she just kind of gave them my information. So I got a call, and it was on a Thursday. I was at cake class, and they said, hey, we would love to try your cake. Can you ship it to us? And I was like, well, I don't really like ship my cakes. I've got the box. And so I was telling him about that. Great. Can you send us a box? But we need to taste the cake. We have a taste test. And it was for the August issue, which was Oprah's favorite summer foods. And I thought, and they said something like, do you have someone in New York that could bake it for you? And I'm thinking, I'm not
trusting anybody else
that.
to do that.
Are you crazy? So I got off the phone. I, just looked at my friend who was with me at the time. I said, I'm going to New York next week. And she's like, what? I'm like, I have to. So I took a red eye on Monday night and got there very early Tuesday morning. But I took cake with me, frosting. You're able to travel with it. Right. Went to a friend's apartment, 8 a.m. in Manhattan. put my cakes together, drove up to Hearst Magazine. I had 2 cakes and my cake box. So one was for their taste test. It was my peach crisp cake.
How did you decide on a flavor?
It was going to be the August cake box.
Okay.
So we wanted it to line up. So and it was
obviously
one of my favorites. So it was like I was really happy about it. And then I made a second one that they could freeze and hold on to for a photo shoot next week if they decided they liked my cake. So I pitched them for an hour, told them all about the box, my whole story, and had the best time. Oprah was not there, but it felt like she was. So that I came home and my kids are like, so where'd you go? And I was like, I went to Oprah. And they're like, who's Oprah? So I had to explain to them Oprah. I was like, you don't understand. And they're like, so you met her? No, but I saw her book collection and I know where her book club is now. And it was pretty awesome. So they had their taste test a couple days later with my cake. And then the next week I got a call that they said they wanted to photograph the cake and they might use it. But I still didn't know until about 2 weeks before the magazine came out. And they said, all right, we'll get you your issue. And so there were happy tears when that one came out. My dad actually, he lives in Los Angeles, so he was able to get the magazine a couple days before me and sent me pictures and cried over that one. It was big. So that was fun. It's been a cool year.
So when these types of things happen, do you see a direct correlation to your business spike? Like the Today Show,
a little bit,
Oprah.
but not like hugely. I mean, we didn't know what to expect from Oprah. It's very different, like her TV version of Oprah's Favorite Things versus a monthly magazine that's circulating. So we weren't sure, and so I actually reached out to a few people that had been in Oprah's Favorite Things to try to gauge what might happen. We didn't have a huge spike after that issue. We had a special code for them. There wasn't a huge spike. The Today Show, I mean, TV gets you some new followers, but it's not huge, right? But it's street cred. It's personal accomplishment that I'm just like, I'm gonna hang this picture of the magazine in my office forever, right? And I have a note from Kelly Clarkson. Thanks for handwritten note. Thanks for being on my show and bringing cake. That was amazing. I'm like, those are people may not remember that, but I always will. I'll frame that, and those are huge moments for me. Even if they don't create a huge business spike, it's an opportunity to at least try. And so I told my son when I came home from New York from pitching Oprah, he's like, so you're going to be in the magazine? I said, I have no idea. He's like, well, why'd you go out? I said, because I had to try. And I grew up on the quote.
Such a cool lesson.
Right? And I grew up on the quote from literally, guys. Okay, so I played basketball growing up. And my dad would always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
It's Wayne Gretzky's famous quote.
No, Cameron, I thought it was my dad's favorite quote.
You did?
I thought it was my dad's. And then my husband, like, I'm not kidding you guys. This is embarrassing. Just a few years ago was like, that's not your dad's quote. And I think I was going to put it on Instagram or something. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, it must be Michael Jordan. Ryan's like, no, it's Wayne Gretzky. And I was like, what? I called my dad. My whole childhood was turned upside down that day. It was really hard. I was like, Dad, what?
Like, Dad, you're not even cool anymore. You don't even have a quote.
That's not your quote.
Plagiarized the quote.
Oh, Steve.
That's
he's
really
a good
funny.
man. He taught me a lot of things. But I always remembered that. Always have, always will. Right?
Very cool. No, and I was going to ask you about Kelly Clarkson because I love Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, she's great.
I love the voice.
She's awesome.
She's
her and Blake on The Voice.
So
They're so
funny.
good. It's like a good combination.
Oh, it's awesome.
It really is.
It's almost as good as Adam and Blake.
Yeah.
I know. I do kind of miss Adam.
Feel a little.
But yeah, she seems like a lot of fun.
She was really great.
I bet that was cool.
Yeah,
I watched a little clip of that this morning.
Thank you. I had heard some great things about her, that she's exactly what you would expect, and it's
That's
so true.
Good.
Super genuine. We were starting my segment, and so Little Big Town was on.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which was really fun. They're great. Cool. And then she had 3 other guests that were human interest stories. And we get in there's 9 of us on stage with 9 cakes in front of us, or we were sharing. So Kelly and I were sharing, but 9 of us on stage. And she introduces Little Big Town and then goes to me. And then she was supposed to keep going. And she completely stopped. And she goes, whoa. We didn't introduce our other friends. Like, she restarted the whole segment so that she could name every single person, including the people that were not celebrities on set. And I was like, how about just that little thing that speaks to your character?
That's really cool.
Of how inclusive, mindful, humble you are, right? To be thinking of everyone. So she restarted and named every single person, right?
Wow.
Including the 3 that weren't the big celebrities. I thought that was really cool. I'll remember that one forever too.
Very cool. So when you go and do something like that, you said 9 cakes. Do you have, like, is there a friend in the area where you go bake, or do you take them baked, or
a little of everything? So I've learned a bunch, and I think I'll change things kind of how we move forward. But like when I went to the Today Show, their crew made one of the cakes, and I took out 27 cake layers, 6 batches of frost. No, more than that. I don't know.
I traveled with all of that.
I traveled. Yeah, my husband planned a work trip.
Right.
Don't tell his work, but it wasn't really work. He had like one meeting and helped me because I was like, I can't carry this all on. I always take cake layers on the plane with me because they're so fragile, but frosting can be frozen. It can be shipped. And so I took most of it. We went to our hotel and I made cakes till about 12 o'clock the night before. Going on the next day was just like a rehearsal day, and I had time to go into their kitchen, but it's small, so it's not like I could have done everything at the Today Show the day before. So I had to prep a lot there. Kelly Clarkson, they were able to do a ton, and then I brought the ones that I wanted for beauty display, and my dad lives down there right near the studio, so I was able to do that. I think I will, as I do maybe more classes on the road, have people bake or find an assistant on the road to help me a little bit. But when I go to Hallmark Channel, they have a great culinary team, their home and family show, and they bake everything. I just show up. I did that like a week ago and flew out that morning, flew home that afternoon.
So you got to do a rolling bakery. Just send your driver / baker ahead of you.
Just go and do it. I know. So I have someone here that I've hired to help me bake cake layers for things like that. And if I'm going back and redoing a bunch of my old cakes that are a few years old, I can tell she's one of my best friends and has started working for me. I can say, all right, here's what you need to change on the recipe. So let's decrease sugar. We need to add a little more buttermilk. I can kind of look at some of the old stuff and figure out how to improve it. And so she can rework those. I can take new pictures. I'll always decorate them. Or if it is like, hey, I need 6 batches of yellow cake to take on the road, then she can help me with that. So I have time to focus on the new content.
Do you ever have to adjust if you're going to different elevations or stuff like that? Like if you bake them here, will they not hold up where you go?
They'll be fine. Yeah. And especially if you bake them here and you're taking them somewhere, they'll be good to go. If you were going to go to the south and you're in the humidity, you've got to be careful with putting heavy cream in your frosting. Maybe use a little bit of shortening and kind of balance it out a little bit. But baking it here and taking it should be fine. And then going home, like I'll go for the holidays and bake cakes at my mom's, and my recipes work fine there. It's just the high altitude. So if you're going higher than where we are, you can make a few adjustments to even my recipes.
It's crazy. Yeah. When I cook in New Orleans, at 3 hours shaves off the brisket cook. 3 hours.
Wow.
Just because I'm at sea level.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
I wish I lived there.
So one of the things that stands out, I've talked to Cam about this a little bit. It's so crazy the doors that cake have opened to you, right? Like with cooking a brisket. I mean, the stuff that you've been able to do. I mean, all of these shows, all of these people you've made just from baking a cake. I mean, when you started, there's no way in your wildest dreams you would have thought that first cake would have turned into Oprah.
Yeah. No. 10 years ago, no way. I was just trying to make Rick and Connie like me.
That's the coolest thing ever.
She was just trying to get off the basil
chopping
block.
Guys, I just wanted to be able to like cut cheese like there or whatever. They would always have other jobs that I just never got to. It's fine. It's fine. I just wanted to cook the meat sometimes.
Hey, our trials define us, right?
Yep.
So them putting you on the chopping block like that, hey, it inspired you. It worked.
It did. I know. We kind of laugh about it now, but it was part of it. And
that's really funny.
That's one of my favorite things about my whole journey is that's where it started. It started with family and just trying to bring everyone together and do something new.
Wow.
So what does your husband do?
He works for Qualtrics down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
everybody's husband works for Qualtrics. What is the deal?
That is why we came out here.
That is so funny.
We were not planning on it. We left BYU. He was an econ major, and we both did consulting. He did business consulting in Santa Monica, and we both were traveling a ton and high-fiving at the door at the airport or whatever, and it was kind of crazy. But then he went to business school down at UCLA and got an MBA, and from there that took us to Switzerland and San Francisco, and he did private equity. And then
what was Switzerland?
Part of the job for private equity, it's where their headquarters were. So they said, we want to indoctrinate you in the Swiss culture and to this company.
How awesome was that?
It was amazing. Weston was 3.5. We knew no one, spoke no Swiss German, and had a blast. It was hard some days because it was just Weston and me. Ryan was working 14-hour days. We'd see him for dinner and he'd go back to the office.
So cool.
But on the weekends, we traveled everywhere. It was amazing.
There are quite a few English. A lot of people speak English there,
the
too,
younger
which
ones
does
do.
help.
Younger, yeah.
But yeah, wow, that'd be a little scary.
It was a melting pot, though. Like, we became friends with people from kind of all over because Switzerland just brought in so many different. It was a great experience.
I mean, culinary-wise, you were in all the right places, too.
No, Switzerland had no good food.
No, like pastries and stuff like that? I thought Switzerland was...
Not bad.
Right?
I don't know that I'd love them. I'm going to say I couldn't find a soft and chewy chocolate chip cookie to save my life, and it was like the only thing I wanted, and everything was like a hard biscuit cookie.
Or ice.
Or peanut butter.
For their drinks. It's ridiculous.
Brown sugar. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, I had my parents ship stuff over. I needed some Skippy peanut butter and brown sugar in my life, and measuring spoons and measuring cups because they do most of their stuff on a scale.
Metric, huh?
So, but it was a great experience. And then 5 years ago, a friend of ours from college was working at Qualtrics and asked Ryan, just, hey, let me tell you, like, we couldn't believe that he had come back from New York to this company. And, I always told Ryan in business, I'm like, you never turn down an interview for the most part, right? And I'm like, talk to Drew. I don't know. And then it was, all right, well, he wants me to come out. Sure. We're not going there, but sure, go check it out. 2 weeks later, he started and moved out to Utah. That fast.
Wow,
and
awesome company.
We were ready to leave San Francisco, and we almost went to Portland. He had an interview with Nike at one point for a great job that we were pumped about. I was looking at housing. It didn't work out last minute. And we're like, okay, maybe it's not meant to be to leave right now. And then this came up.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, we're doing Utah. Like I
swore I would never go back to that place.
We did. And I look at it though too. And I know we came for his job but I feel very strongly that I couldn't do what I'm doing had I still been in San Francisco or even LA, that wouldn't have happened. So this was a place I needed to be as well.
It's a great environment to be in for, I mean, I don't know if I'd say baking per se, but
entrepreneurship and the community of social media and
it's
and all
contagious around here. I mean, there's so many incredible stories and you get a lot of inspiration from it and be surrounded by people that kind of help you with it.
Well, very supportive people.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, I feel like the community's been awesome. Whether it's, I was like started as a food blogger and put into kind of an influencer category too. That I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. Right. And I have a lot of fun with that. And then to now be an entrepreneur, that might be my favorite title.
Oh,
isn't that such a cool journey? Like an evolution of all these different things, right?
Yeah.
So like now, what role does Instagram play in the business?
Oh, it's huge. And it's something I haven't given up yet, nor will I think for a while, because it's a place that I can have direct communication with followers and really connect with them.
Sure.
And I don't ever like schedule stuff out. It's very like, here's how I'm feeling. I want to share the cake, or maybe it's something else and it's more
that's
personable.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I want to talk about how something my kid said or whatever, right? And to be able to connect and share feelings. And I've always, from day one, I was like, no matter what I'm building, I want to share these cakes, but I want people to get to know me because I want them to trust me and say, no, I would go to Courtney for a cake recipe, right?
Well,
like you would your best friend or something.
With the focus groups, like what makes them different is kind of that personal connection to a character or something like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. And you need to know there needs to be a face. Even with a big company like Apple, you had Steve Jobs, who was the face. People had someone to connect with. They had someone to put a face with the company. Sure. And so I always wanted that. And I just always wanted people to feel like, okay, I can trust Courtney's opinion, whether it's jeans, whether it's cake, like, right? Like they would their best girlfriend on, where should I go for dinner or something. And so I think that's been kind of a big part and something that's been really important to me. And so social media, it's the best place to connect.
Well, you do an awesome job with it.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, these cakes are crazy.
Yeah. We'll talk about getting hungry.
No kidding.
I was trying to go through and I was like, oh, I got to stop
this right now.
for
a second.
And then she showed up with cake.
Is there a part of the baking process that you like the most? Like as far as, do you care more about what's inside? I mean, because you do some really elaborate decorating too.
Yeah, most important always is flavor and taste. And I always tell people that I'm like, master the inside, master how it's supposed to taste. Even if you put it in a 9x13 pan because you're worried about how the decorating is going to look.
Sure.
It's going to taste the same as if it's a layered cake.
Right.
And so for me, getting the flavors, and you imagine, I mean, you totally understand this. Like you imagine what the flavors and textures are supposed to taste like, even though you've never tasted them.
Sure.
And then when they do, and you take that bite yourself, you're like, yes,
right.
This is amazing. This happened. And you're like, dance.
And if you're
in the
like
kitchen.
that, you did good because we're toughest on ourselves, right?
Right.
Most people, it's so funny. I've had some jobs where people are just like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I was like, that was a C-.
Yeah.
Like that sucked.
Right.
Like what? It's so funny. So yeah,
their own worst critic, right?
Yeah.
It's true. But when you actually are like, oh, this is good, that means somebody's going to eat it and thinks it's the greatest thing they ever had.
And then to be able to give that to someone else. But I love the decorating. It's kind of the creative part. I'm more of a minimalist when it comes to decorating. It's fun to do some of the really extravagant ones, like around the holidays. I've like my holiday cakes, and it's fun to decorate and be creative that way. But it's very therapeutic too.
Sure.
I don't want my kids around when I'm decorating. They can be around when I'm baking it and trying, but I want to turn on Coldplay or my baking playlist or whatever, and kind of have a moment to myself because it's more of a Zen moment. And that's like, I'll record videos too, because then someone can just sit and look, oh, you're looking at my Halloween brains coming out of a cake. That
is so cool.
The fault line cake is a big trend, and I hadn't really done it because I just kind of will do my own thing. And I made brains out of the fault line.
I'd eat those brains. Those look pretty good.
It's a red velvet cake with the black chocolate frosting.
See, and you're right. I like the minimalist thing because I feel like the more crazy the cakes are, like you look at these shows where they're building like houses out of cake. Like that can't taste good after they've done all that stuff to it, and just let it kind of sit there. I think
you really think, I could never do that.
No,
I want someone to look and be like, wow, that looks hard, but I can do it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
I can do that.
It's accessible.
If I can do it, you can do it.
So what does the business look like today? I mean, you've done a bunch of stuff. So as we sit today, you've not given up, you've stopped doing the focus groups.
Yep.
So what is Cakes by Courtney today? Like, what are you doing?
More online content. So we released the online class. We've put a hold on the cake subscription boxes. Need to close the door to open up some others moving forward. We've got more products coming out. So another scraper set and just more stuff I'm working on. Hopefully my original idea that we've been working on will eventually come to fruition, and I can share that one.
We're excited to hear what that is.
I know. I like the suspense.
Maybe we'll get a little hint when the microphones turn off.
Maybe when they turn off, I'll tell you. So just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of fun to just try a bunch of things and see what sticks. Right. And so the content is most important to me to be able to share and kind of figure out how to scale though too. Cause I'm like one person behind the brand and there's a couple employees, and how do we scale this? So some of the products, and it might be more online content and figuring out ways to be able to do that as well. And just, we'll see. We got some exciting things in 2020.
Now, what about like just how many people try to hire you to make a cake for them?
I'll still get asked, but most people know I don't do that. No.
Okay.
So I'll give you all the tools, recipes, everything you need to know to do it yourself. And
that's awesome.
It was fun to partner with Last Course, so I licensed my recipes to them for about 6 months before they closed. I didn't work
Anybody
out.
know? I just found out yesterday.
Oh, you did? Yeah, no, they called me.
You.
Oh yeah, you told me. It was like 2 days ago.
I was so sad.
That was a bummer because people are like, "Where do I get your cake?"
I know.
Right.
That was the first time I'd heard about your cakes.
Oh, okay.
From there.
Yeah, and
well, now we have their phone number.
Yeah. We got them right here.
Right
if
here.
She likes barbecue.
I do like barbecue a lot.
Like, we maybe do some trading.
Yeah.
And you don't need to decorate mine. I just wanted to taste it.
I wanted to make
I won't take a picture of it.
Cake.
Yeah. Hey.
I thought about more of
cake.
like I've done a cake on a Traeger.
Yeah.
I've smoked my peach crisp cake
on
the Traeger, cooked it there. But I've thought about like a cornbread cake.
Yum.
I had the best ice cream at Van Leeuwen that had this kind of cream corn element to it.
Whoa.
I was like, that's kind of a cool texture and
little
flavor.
Pepper in there.
Yeah. Right?
Ooh, that sounds
Have you
good.
been to Van Leeuwen ice cream, by the way?
I
or
haven't.
Salt and Straw? It was Salt and Straw, actually.
Where is that?
Well, Salt and Straw started in Portland, I believe, and they're all over now, but they have one in Southern California, a couple of them.
Wow.
And just like cool flavors, like a cracked pepper, corn, cream, ice cream. Wow. They're awesome.
How often are people trying to do like collaborations with you? Or do you reach out? Do you enjoy that, or do you just focusing on what you're doing?
I this year have been focusing more on my business rather than doing collaborations or giveaways. I'm more selective, I should say, with them now. Not that I won't do them, but I'm more selective. I feel like I don't want to ever overload my audience with things that I'm trying to sell them, especially if that's outside of what I'm already doing.
Sure.
So when I worked with this MBA group on the project, one of the feedback or one of the items of feedback that came back was ad free was one of the columns. And so I really appreciated that because I don't want them to feel like they're coming to Instagram and it's another ad after another ad. Right. I want them to come and have my content, and for most of the part, free.
Huh. Well, because I noticed today you posted you're doing something with Chip.
Yeah, well, so a little over a year ago, they asked me to collaborate on a cookie flavor. So you know how they always have like a different cookie.
Right.
They've got their original and a different cookie flavor. So it was a year and a half ago that they reached out, and I said, oh, yeah, what if we did one based on my Biscoff cake? And so I told them what was in my Biscoff cake, and they said, awesome, we'll make a cookie out of it. And went and taste tested. We figured it out. It was great. It was one of their best-selling cookies. They've brought it back again since then, and then it was just named one of their most popular for the 4 that they're bringing back this month.
Chip's my favorite.
I love it.
So, you need to try the Biscoff chip.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
I'm such a
good.
chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
Like it's my favorite dessert.
I know, totally.
It delivers warm to my door.
It's crazy.
Way to go,
Doesn't
Chip.
even seem real.
Yeah, their chocolate coconut one that's on the list for this. That one's one of my favorite too. Have you had that one from Chip?
No, I'm telling you, I don't venture. Like when I have my thing, it's hard. I'm like a warm chocolate chip cookie. I don't.
Dark chocolate or milk?
Always tries to get. Okay.
This is going to say a lot about our friendship right now.
Kind of like honestly, I'll take like the semi-sweet or dark chocolate usually first because it's more classic, right? But I don't mind milk chocolate either.
I think people assume milk chocolate most. I'm dark chocolate.
No, I am too.
Semi-sweet maybe I can do, but I want dark chocolate with a little bit of salt sprinkled on top of my cookie.
A little more bitter, a little. It's to me, it's real chocolate, right?
Yeah.
So that's
balance out the sweetness from that brown sugar.
It's amazing. We need to stop talking about this.
Are we hungry yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
My gosh.
Answer is yes.
So what kind of advice do you give for people that maybe aren't in the cake world that are wanting to start a business today? Because I'm sure you get asked a lot with what you're doing. So what type of advice do you give them?
Most of the people that reach out, they're like, I want to do this. What do I need to do? It's like, just start. Just get started. Just put yourself out there. I think it's important. Like Instagram wants to see pretty pictures, but you don't have to have an amazing camera for that. Get really good lighting. Natural lighting in your iPhone, you can get some good pictures, right? So start there. But I think start teaching yourself. You have to do the research. You can't expect that it's going to happen overnight, right? Like my growth in the first year was 10,000 followers, and then it was like 50,000 by year 2, 100,000 by year 3, and I'm at 280 something year 4. Like it's gradual.
I suck at social media.
We suck at social media.
I'm at 9,000.
I think 6. Anna would hope that you would say, I'm going to get better.
I am going to get better, Anna.
We're going to get better. Yeah, and I think it's intimidating. It's like you got to just do it. You got to be yourself on there.
Right.
If it ever feels forced, it's forced. Don't do it. Don't do it at that moment. Like, and if the post feels forced, rethink it. Give yourself a second. Be consistent with what you're posting, your voice in your posting, how you're posting, the times, and just be mindful that you're really just, I think being yourself is what most people want to see. I think some of my best posts are when I'm talking about life sucking and kids like not
you become
behaving,
a real person
right?
at that time.
Yeah, relatable. And so hopefully that always comes across in my content.
It's healthy on Instagram because everybody it's like a travelogue. It's all the best things.
Yeah.
So I think we like it naturally when people kind of give us everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Was that natural for you when you started doing it? Like just to be able to share like that?
Yeah. I always there's times where I feel kind of motivated or inspired to share some personal things. And I think there's a reason for that. And I just always, how else are you going to get to know people if you don't open up? Right? You've got to. And so I've learned that lesson over the years and even before Instagram. And so I was just able to carry that over to social media.
Well, I'm sure understanding all that broadcasting and that had to help a ton. Know what people want.
Yeah, a little bit. I think a big thing that we would talk about with like talent at a television station as we're working with just their on-camera presence.
Sure.
Is and another great analogy for social media and for your writing is when the anchor, if they're kind of struggling to connect, we try to really focus on like, okay, who's your one audience member? Who's your person? Who's your consumer? And you look at all your research and you're like, well, it's Joanne from Sandy, Utah. She's 40. She's got this income, this many kids, right? Talk to Joanne. Talk to her. Think of just her. Well, of course, you have more viewers than just Joanne from Sandy, Utah, right? And it carries over. And then all of a sudden, the connection you have with one person is a connection to multiple ones, right? And so my point from the get-go was like, if I can connect with just one person and change just one person's life through cake,
right,
done my job.
Who is
then
your
I'm
person
super,
you talk to?
Well, I don't know. Someone like me. It was someone who's like a young mom who needed her own passion, her own hobby, her own escape, something for herself. And just kind of talking to my old self a little bit, I think, is kind of my person. And it's cool to see when you focus on the one and you're less worried about the big numbers, your growth, I think, is greater.
Right. Well, that's
right?
what Anna says, right?
Mm-hmm.
She told me that the other night.
Look
She's
at,
like,
I'm
you just
as smart as Anna.
Yeah. She's like, you
that,
just
Anna?
got to talk to one person. I'm like, who?
Nope.
But you're right. I like your explanation because it's like, I just need to talk to me. Like, whoever the guy that was just getting into barbecue and was just excited about it, what info I needed. And
what did I need to know? What would you tell your old self, right? You get asked that question in business. It's like, that is exactly what you should be telling
I'd say you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Steve Carlston.
It's something that I came up with about 10 years ago. And it's really
you guys, it's so embarrassing. It's true though. I legit until my 30s thought that was my dad's quote.
I'm gonna find a Wayne Gretzky autograph picture with that quote on it, and I'm gonna frame it and I'm gonna send it to you. Yep. And I'm gonna put your dad.
Okay, but
sincerely, Wayne Gretzky and your dad.
Is my dad would have a lot of stuff like this. You've got all your sports things, and I'm pretty sure some of them he signed himself. We would always joke. We're like, Dad, there's no way. But as a younger Courtney in high school, my brother and I would give him a hard time. We're like, you signed that. That looks like your signature.
So funny.
And he's like, no, I didn't. And no, like he's met a lot of cool people in his journey, and so he probably did get their signatures. But now I'm like, maybe not, because it wasn't your quote. So what the hell, Dad?
I can't trust anything you say. I love that Wayne Gretzky's 6 foot tall right behind you for that story, like actually in the room.
He's here.
That's really funny.
Oh my
I have a family member that may or may not have signed his own baseball cards as a kid and sold them to his friends, autographed. I won't say who.
Hey, they're an
entrepreneur.
Hustler, man. Look at that.
That's right.
Making things happen
He's
at a young age.
a successful person now, so
criminal or CEO.
Wait, what did you just say?
Criminal or CEO.
Yeah, criminal or CEO. That's the ADD. That's what defines somebody with ADD. You're one or the other, generally. What a story. That's very cool. You have any more?
I don't think so. That was awesome.
I just want to eat the rest of the cake.
I know.
Such a cool story, and it's
sweet potato is my favorite, I think.
Thank you.
See, I think I'm the pistachio, the Whoville cake.
Did you get some?
There is a pretty. Don't worry about him. Okay? Listen, he's fine.
Everyone
just over there on the side. No, I agree. No, it's it's just another really cool story that if you find something, especially the mom thing, we've kind of been on that theme lately where
you had
moms want to make their own money and they want to, they kind of need their own voice and their own passion. And sometimes being a mom, it's just so hard to balance that. And I think it's so important to find that thing.
I think you feel lost sometimes because you're like, I'm supposed to be a mom. This is my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. I was working, doing this other job. And I just felt lost.
Right.
I felt like
and it's Groundhog Day.
Right. I didn't even know that I had lost a little bit of myself until I had started doing cakes and started finding some joy in something else. And I don't think a mom should ever feel guilty that I need something other than my children and my mom life. Like,
absolutely not.
And I'm all about like no mom guilt. I work and I have worked, and my kids see how I help provide for the family. They see how I followed my dreams, and my kids will say, "Mom, do you think I could like build roller coasters?" Yes.
Yep.
Do you think I could be in the NBA? Yes.
Absolutely.
You work your butt off? Yes, you can.
Absolutely right. No, and that's totally true. It's like the Munns, their parents are always like that. Like, we want to be country singers. Yeah. Raising Wild, they were on it released today.
Yeah.
They went from every little phase, like, we want to be country singers. Well, you're going to be the best country singers ever. What can we do to help?
Yeah.
And just be supportive, and that's the thing. You never know what will stick.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find something that you love, like, you didn't start making cakes to make money and to get a 250,000 plus followers and to be in Oprah magazine, but when you love something, you're going to outwork 99% of the people that do that something.
And that's the key right there.
Yep. And that's what's going to make.
Because a lot of people think, follow your passion. And there's something to that, but you've got to follow something you're passionate about doing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like,
well,
you've got
and
to be
when
able to put in the work.
When you're passionate, it's not work. And that's the difference.
Right? Like it, yeah. And things like there have been some ups and downs. And when doing the boxes, like, people I've been working with and vendors, right? Fulfilling my boxes, things that don't work out.
Sure.
Or boxes getting stuck in customs and I don't even have them here to ship the first boxes in January. Like, suck.
Yeah.
Who else are you going to keep going after that? Or do you call it quits? Like, there has been so many times I'm like, what am I doing? Yep. I'm away from my family. I'm not sleeping. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And you do start to build on the guilt and you start to have the self-doubt. And then you've got to get back and remind yourself about the one and about why you started and like remind yourself, no, I love this so much that even if it sucks right now and things aren't going well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to shift my focus, right? Still stay in my lane, but hopefully kind of make some changes and business choices that will move on for the better.
Yeah, you learn from it and improve, and that's I mean that's how it goes.
Totally.
You're gonna learn. It's again raising wild.
Yeah.
You know, when that lady like right before their first photo shoot just quit, like the person fabricating all their stuff, and they just got on Google. Started calling people and found some crazy awesome designer, and
I love their story.
You just never and that's just it. Like, you know, especially when you get to your level, I mean, you start dealing with the haters and the keyboard warriors, and you know, I'm sure you've had some of that.
You know what? We've got a good community of cake people that are like really kind. Knock on wood, like I don't have a lot of people coming at me. It's like
good.
And I think my people on there would be like, hey, I don't even think I'd have to say anything, nor would I.
Right.
Right.
That's the thing.
I just want it to be a space for like, hey, this is a happy place, supportive place. And it's been that. And I feel very fortunate because it's been a cool community. If I can't get to a question, they help each other out in the comments. And they're like,
awesome.
Oh, Courtney says this, maybe try that. It's so cool. And I just
all
go
the
back
Courtney
and say thank
ambassadors.
You. Yeah. No,
that's
really.
pretty cool. I want Bam Bam's ambassadors. This is what Cameron would say.
This is what Courtney
like,
would
you're
say.
right. Yeah. I would say that. Thank you.
And it's like, wow, you've been here since day one or, you know, the second year or whatever, and you followed along and we've had this journey together. It's like watching your favorite television show, right? And like seeing Modern Family, everyone grow up and you feel like you're a part of it, right?
Right.
They're on their last season.
I hate that it's going to be over.
I know.
So sad.
Their Christmas one was
Me
really
and Cam
funny.
are just Cam and Cam, you know. Not happy he's going to be gone. Dang it, now I'm depressed.
Shoot, well, eat more cake.
I'll eat some
Take a
cake.
bite.
I'll cheer up.
You'll
real
be fine
quick.
in a second.
Oh, man. You're so much fun. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, you guys, for having me. What a blast.
Awesome.
Find her at Cakes by Courtney.
Oh, no S. Cake by Courtney.
Oh
Sorry
gosh.
to just shut you down real quick, but the branding is important.
That's like saying Illinois. You know, when you're in Illinois.
I was born in Chicago.
Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois. Do you know what? Cakes by Courtney was taken when I started Instagram, and so I was like, all right, Cake by Courtney sounds chic. I'm going to go with that.
Hey, you don't mass produce either. You're one cake at a time.
Cake
by Courtney.
By Courtney.
It's like Lego.
Yeah.
We learned that you don't call it Legos. It's Lego.
There you go.
I learn something every day.
Man, we have learned some cool stuff in here, right? Man, we're so cultured. You're awesome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the cake.